All right, guys, I'm with Perpetual Connection. This is the guy who saw the East Texas Golem. So the story's been changed a little bit, and he's just going to kind of set it straight what actually happened. So, did you grow up hunting and fishing? And if so, who got you into it? And how old were you when that happened?
Man, kind of no, not really. Um, I fished a little bit when I was a kid. Um, I think my dad went through like a phase where he went to try, and it was funny because I like really wanted to continue with it, but he did not. I got to like my teenage years where I was rubbing elbows with people that would go hunting, and like firearms are super cool. So like I wanted to get into guns. My parents actually weren't like super like outdoorsy people. And I think that's what kind of got me into like camping, hunting, fishing. I think growing up and not having it gave me an appreciation for it when I went out and I found it, through my own means.
Who took you hunting for the first time?
A family friend's dad had taken us out, and that was when I first found out about like hogs, where you could go out on someone's property and they were just abundant. Like in areas where there was food, you just posted up, and it was just something where you go out wee hours of the morning, and like clockwork, they show up. They show up at like super early in the morning. You pop one or two of them. He was really good at doing like the whole processing thing. Wild hogs, some people like stick their nose up at it. Some people don't. Some people don't like it. But if you cook it the right way, it's pretty good. I like it a lot.
Have you noticed, are the larger ones, do they taste better, or the smaller ones, or is it all the same?
Yeah, everybody wants to bag a big one, but sometimes the sows, when they've like just entered like maturity, so it's like not super old, like those are some of the better ones that you could get.
Hmm.
Like the boars like taste all right, but the same. You don't want like a super old one. You don't want like a super old one, and sometimes when they're really big, it's because they're older. It's an older pig.
Nice. What were you like in high school? Were you popular? Were you a stoner or a jock?
I don't know, somewhere in the middle. I played a little bit of football. I listened to a lot of metal music, so I hung out with that group. A lot of people that were in like the punk, metal, emo scene.
And did a lot of those guys go hunting with you?
No, not really. Not really, no. It was like towards the tail end of high school when I started going hunting. And I don't know, a lot of those dudes, they shouldn't have been trusted with firearms, man. They didn't have guns, and I'm kind of glad. They're good
Did
people,
Yeah.
but
Did your social circles change a little bit when you started hunting?
kinda, yeah. I mean, I've never really been like a social butterfly, but I've always bounced around between a couple social circles, and I mean, even specifically like now, like the people that I hang around when I hunt, they're not like the people that I play like online video games with, and they're not like the same as the people that I go to like church with, or like you know, I get around a little bit.
What's the boar scene out in California? Do you get any boar out there?
Yeah, but it's public land, so that's kind of cool. I've gone a couple times out here, and it's just a completely different scene. It's cool because there are areas where, I mean, there's like pros and cons. Like the cons in Texas is that the land is bought up, so you have to do like a lot of permission asking, and sometimes you got to pay people to like go hunt on their land. With boar, it was cool. With boar, I think the reason that I got into it was because they're typically a pest, and so people will sometimes pay you to like come get the boar off their land. In California, it's cool because you don't have to like ask for permission so much. You just gotta like geographically be on top of what is actually public land, but then there's competition. Since you don't have to ask for permission, any dickhead that went to a sporting goods store and has a freaking hunting rifle can go and be out there, and that brings all kinds of other problems because some people get like a little territorial. We had a situation where someone had siphoned out our gas. We had gone to an area where it's like adjacent to like a good hunting area, and we went to like glass it, and we were just like, oh well, we'll sight in our rifles at this spot where it's like a known spot. It's a known area that you could shoot. They're like targets set up and whatever.
Hmm.
And so we were doing a little bit of hiking with our rifles, and we're shooting, so you could hear that we're armed. And someone still was ballsy enough to, while we were gone, while we were away from our vehicles, go up and underneath it and cut the fuel line. instead of like siphoning it out with the hose, they cut the line. Even if someone drives us out to go get gas, okay, I can't fill up my damn tank.
But
Um,
you were able to fix it on the spot.
yeah, yeah, we ran into this group of people. They live out in the area. I wondered if they were the people that freaking cut it to begin with.
Ah,
But
golly.
um, no, they lived in the area. They helped us out. I feel like if it was a hustle, they're putting on their Oscar worthy performance,
Hmm.
because they did have some stuff to fix it, but it was like very much like Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. Did they charge
Like,
y'all?
which is funny. No, not really. We wanted to
Okay.
offer them something. We wanted to
Yeah.
offer them something, but my friend and I, we didn't come ready to buy shit, and so we didn't have cash at the time. There was a huge shortage of 22 at the time.
Hmm.
22 long rifle bullets. We offered them a couple boxes of 22. His wife was like really happy to have it because I guess they have like a squirrel problem on their property or something.
Oh, really? Okay, so they took the ammo. Okay.
Yeah, they had like it was kind of funny. We like bartered for gasoline with freaking
Yeah, man.
bullets like it was some Mad Max shit.
Right. Too funny. So, just lead us into this story. You were going to go pig hunting, correct?
Correct, correct. I don't know where East Texas comes from. This story has been shared so many places that I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a game of telephone. You know, something gets tossed one way than the other. It's much closer to West Texas, much
Hmm.
closer to like New Mexico and all that. A lot of people had given me some criticism, Department of Fish and Game, like people that I talked to about going out and hunting solo. Um, but I mean, the simple answer is I got a new scope. I had sighted in my new scope. I wanted to go hunting, and I had all the intentions of going and hunting with friends, but they bailed. You know, one had some last minute thing come up, and then, everybody has that one friend that when one friend bails, the other friend bails, and, I had a new toy. That's the simple answer of it. I wanted to go out and play with my new toy, and at the time, I was a lot more green. I was a lot more new to the whole hunting scene. I didn't want to be the type of person to not go out hunting just because what, like I'm scared of the dark, you know. the the property that we were hunting on, I had hunted before in the daytime. I'd hunted probably close to a dozen times before that incident. And so I know the area. And so, what's the difference in that area between now and you shut off the lights? It's the same place. I'd gotten set up and I had, I think version now is an AGM Rattler, and I had like a earlier version of that same scope. So I had posted up, I had set up on this fallen tree I was using as something for me to recline against, but also there was, like a bit of tree in front of me that provides some cover. It was something for me to like rest my rifle up against. And cycling through my settings, playing with my scope. I really wasn't scared at the time. There wasn't really anything to be afraid of. So much so that I got bored. I got bored of glassing the same area and maybe a little cocky, like when you go into an area and there's not a lot of noise happening from like other wildlife, you should come to the conclusion that maybe there's, like a predator in the area or maybe something's wrong. Um, but when I saw that, I just assumed that the wildlife was concerned with me because, like like a full grown dude, bushwhacking through game trails at night. I'm not exactly, stealthy. I make a lot of noise moving around, and I assumed that I had spooked the area out. I had waited for the activity to come back, and when it didn't, I thought, maybe there I should go from, I'll call it spot A. I had another backup plan. I'll call it spot B, where I wanted to move to, where I could get just like a different perspective, like a different vantage point on the clearing that I decided to hunt. I'm moving over there, getting set up, getting comfortable, getting my concealment, like the animals can't see super well at night, but they can see well enough. And it's not like the movies, you know, you don't want to wear like black or anything. You want to wear like camouflage. You want to still camouflage with the environment. Camouflage works at night the same way it works in the day. And so I'm over there getting set up, and as I'm looking through my scope, I could see livestock with my scope. And so I was like, just, you know, like looking at livestock with the scope, not mounted on anything.
Hmm.
And you could see how a pig moves. Like I saw how a pig, I've seen a pig on a thermal before I ever went hunting with it. And then I saw something moving that I hadn't seen with the thermal before. But you know, your brain, the human brain does the whole pattern recognition thing. You know,
Hmm.
you're not gonna assume that it's, you know, like just like, oh damn, I saw a wendigo. You know, like freaking, like your brain's gonna be like, oh, like there's this thing moving through the woods. It's on four legs. You know, it's a bear. Not super common for the area, but the common enough. I'm watching this thing move through the brush. I see it move towards this deadfall. I recognize how that tree was positioned. I'm like, oh, okay, like it's going towards my tree. Maybe like I left something, maybe like I left some food, or you know, like some scent. And I notice, you know, like I'm starting to focus in, get a clear picture of what I'm looking at, and it's the hair on the head. You know, like bears have an even coat of fur, like their whole body over,
Yeah.
and I wasn't bothered by it until there was no question about it that it was a dude. And that's when I started to get, you know, concerned, you know, like that's when all these questions are popping up in my head that I don't have answers to. That throws you through a loop. You know, you're alone, you're by yourself, you're at night. And I see this dude where I can't stress this enough, you know, it's like it's an earlier thermal optic, and I can't get like the best details on him, but I can see it's just like, oh, like not only is this dude, you know, like crawling around out here, but you know, he's not wearing a lot. Like I'm pretty sure he was naked. I'm sitting here and I'm transfixed on this dude. My mind initially was, oh, like I wonder if this dude's like got lost. A lot of the lands in Texas are bought up. Like a lot of it's private. You know, like some of these people own hundreds of acres. Some of these people own thousands of acres. You know, like in Texas. And so you could be on someone's property, they never know. People go missing in the wilderness all the time. And so my mind was on like, oh, like, hey, this dude's, you know, like lost it out here. I was going to call out to him, but he was like trying to get some information out of the tree. And it was freaking me out because it was just like, oh, okay, like I get that like a bear could pick up my scent on like a piece of tree, but I don't know any person who smells that good. I'm hypnotized by this dude and I'm trying to get some kind of idea of what his motives are, what he's doing. And he goes to like this little clearing that was next to his tree, this little spot where there's not a lot of brush, and he puts his palms between his feet and he squats down and he points his head straight up. He calls out, and this is a dude where I think a lot of people want to make this dude out to be like some kind of boogeyman. Like people toss around like the word like skinwalkers and wendigos and stuff like that. But he looked like a dude, big dude, but he looked like a guy. And the only surreal thing he did was he got a voice out of himself that it did not look like, you know, a voice that should come out of that man. It would be like if like Dolly Parton's voice came out of Andrew here, and he called out in a female voice. He said help. He said that he was lost, and he gave a little pause, and he said, "I'm hurt. I can't walk." And that was the moment I got a big dump of adrenaline, and my mind was going, you know, like 1,000 miles a minute because I was like, the hell you can't. Like you can walk fine. This dude is naked. He is not wearing a lot, and he is moving through this brush better than I can. And I have like a long sleeve jacket. I have pants that's meant to, you know, keep me safe from thorns. And this dude was not having a problem moving through all that, you know, naked. And when he said he couldn't walk, I was like, oh, like, you know, like the fuck you can't. And that settled a lot of confusion that I had in my head where I was like, oh, okay, well, you're lying, and if you're lying, why are you lying? So I yelled at him to fuck off. And there's this moment where he goes from looking straight up to looking right back in my direction. It was like he got like the punchline to a joke, like he figured something out. Like he had a big old smile on his head, and he was just like, "Oh, okay, I was wondering where you are." Like he was wondering where I was at. And he was like, "Oh, okay, now I know where you're at. Now I'm coming this way." And I have had some firearms training. Like I'm not a cop, like I'm not a soldier. Most of us are self-taught. I've known people that they've bought like their first hunting setup from Walmart. The Walmart guy isn't teaching you use of force contingency, like he's not, he ain't training you on nothing. Luckily for me, I had been trained by people that know what they were doing, that had a military background. I've got some critical comments, like, why didn't I shoot that guy right there and then? I'm like, okay, like I freaking shoot some dude out in the middle of nowhere from over 100 yards away, man, I'm going to jail. Like you're going to have a very hard time proving self-defense in that situation. In the hunting rules, like if you're observing a person, you're not supposed to observe them with your scope. You're not supposed to observe them with the optics that's on your gun, because if you're observing them, you're pointing a loaded firearm at them. And so I'm already breaking rules. Like I'm already uneasy about what I'm doing. I'm conflicted because I don't like the look on this dude. I don't like that he seemed to be pleased by the fact that I called out, like he doesn't know that I can see him. Well, how could he have known that I have a freaking thermal optic? Most people don't know that thermal optic, normal people, when you talk to normal people don't know that thermal optics exist. And I'm looking at this dude and he gives me this smile and he starts to walk in my direction. And I am cycling through all of these possibilities in my head and going through my options. And the only thing I can come up with is to toss a warning shot in his direction. And so I send one over his head. I give it a good amount of wiggle room, like 30 some odd feet, enough to let you know that I mean business, enough to let you know that I'm like sending this definitively in your direction, but not so close that I could mistakenly, like hit the guy. You expect someone in that situation, like that just got shot at, to, retreat. And he did react, like he immediately like hunched down, but he was still very fixed on my location. But now he was low. He is still looking right in my direction. I let him know, like, the next one is going to fuck him up. In my head, like I had like a very like Samuel L. Jackson delivery, but like what came out of me was like a voice crack, like I'm embarrassed to like try to recreate it now. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna do that. But my voice cracked when I got it out, and we were in this standoff. My crosshairs are put on him. There's a fresh round in the chamber, and if I touch that gun off, it's hitting him in the chest. I'm trying to keep my breathing under control. I think anybody that's ever held a red dot on like a pistol, you figure out like your aim is constantly moving, and these little micro movements that are happening with your hands and your arms. When you're holding an optic, you can see it. Like you could see all that. And he gets it in his head that he's like, this ain't worth my time. And he bolts to, yeah, his right, my left, and takes off. And it like jump scares me because it makes noise, like he's over there kicking up brush and dirt and stuff, and he leaves and this or that. And he bolts, and I have to keep him in my sights because that's the only way I can see him. Like this dude said that he can't walk. The fuck you can't. Like I can barely keep track of you in my scope. And he is hauling ass and just wailing, yelling. I couldn't tell if he was crying or laughing, something in between. He's just making all this noise, and it was freaking me out. To let him know, it's just like, hey, I still kind of see you, and I wanted to let him know that. And so I touched another round off, again, like 20, 30 feet over his head. But this time I kind of tried to put it in some branches. That way it's just like, hey, I'm like busting branches over your head. Like I want you to know, like you being over there, you're not safe. I can still see you. At a similar rifle, this one's chambered in .308. The one that I had at the time was shorter, chambered in 7.62 by 39, but just for the camera, it's clear. Um, I only have these little 5 round mags. Not a lot of bullets because I'm not going to war. I'm going to go shoot some pigs. I've now cracked off 2 rounds, and I have one in the chamber. But that my ammo's going. I threw my backpack over my shoulder and I booked it back to my truck. I put my rifle in such a way where I could get a hold of it if I needed to, and I sped off out of there. I know people have taken like this East Texas Golem thing, and they made it this or that. For the longest time, I just compared it a lot more closer to Wrong Turn, because the Wrong Turn was like, like these mutant hillbillies out in the woods, and I had told this story from that perspective, where I like ran into some dude freaking eating squirrels and nuts and berries, and had some cache of drugs back there or something.
Yeah, one of the commenters on Facebook said when he watched it, he started talking about feral people in East Texas. Obviously, this wasn't East Texas, but still talking about feral people living in the woods and killing people and eating them. And that just creeped me out when I heard that. I read that at like 1 in the morning. I was trying to go to bed, and I was like, oh my gosh. And the thought of that takes your story to another level, It's obviously the most fun if it was like a cryptid, like a skinwalker or a wendigo. But, even if it was, I was thinking if it was a guy who was on drugs, he's going to try to rob you for your resources, whatever. That's what drug dealers do. But yeah, to kill you and then eat you, I mean, that's a whole new level.
Scary.
Yeah. Now, there were a few things that people were getting confused. I think it was mainly your setup. I think you already talked about that. Was there any other lies that people, maybe the Tesla, you don't drive a Cybertruck?
No, at the time, it would have been a real beat up Nissan. But I love that truck. That truck was good for what it was.
Right.
Bang for your buck.
Yeah. When it called out to you in a woman's voice, I mean, you have chills. I think you said adrenaline dump. I mean, was that just like one of the weirdest things you've ever heard and seen?
Yeah. You just, man, it gets my heart going a little bit just remembering. It's just, this is something that happens on the news to other people,
Mm-hmm.
Like this doesn't happen to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny hearing people talk about how they would have done this and done that. And I actually want to ask you what you would have done different, but I have a short story about coming home. I used to live in like a guy's dorm on some kind of like college campus. I was worked on there on staff, and I would play video games till like late at night. I was walking home, and it's on a big ranch. So I'm walking back to where like the housing for staff, and it's like 2:33 in the morning, right? And I'm walking back, and I see these two big dogs, and I'm like, oh crap! And they're by the dorm, and I have to go that way. So I start walking the other way. They both look up and they see me, and they start running at me, and I'm like, oh my gosh! And I'm probably 33 at the time, still in decent shape, and I'm running from them. And in the movies, I always think I'm going to run like I'll just run so fast and jump on like a car, like up in a tree or something.
Sure.
There's nothing around me in the middle, and I'm just running as fast as I can. And then the whole world starts shifting sideways. I was like, what is going on? Because I'm so panicked. Why is the world tilted? And I'm falling over just like in the movies.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So man, I had like the worst escape ever. I was kind of like, it's kind of like a little bit of a reality check. I think like you talked about not feeling like you're the biggest, baddest thing in the woods after that. It was a bad moment for me. So yeah, I just crashed into the ground, and they both ran up towards me. I'm like, oh my gosh. And they were totally friendly dogs, man. But I'd never seen those dogs, and we've had several wild dogs on the campus that were like, getting kind of nasty with the kids that guys have had to take out and shoot, because like the pet control or animal society, whatever, they don't take care of dogs out there. But yeah, is there anything that you wish you would have done different when you're looking back, or was that all pretty much you could have done?
I'm not kitting out my stuff for battle. And so they make bigger magazines. Like I can buy a 10 round magazine for that rifle I just showed you, but it sticks out a bunch. And I'm hunting. Sometimes it's nice having something where the magazine's shorter. Like the capacity doesn't matter, because ideally you're hitting it on the first shot. And if you didn't hit it on the first shot, it's running away. And so it makes more sense to have like you'll see hunting rifles that have 3 and 5 round magazines, because those make more sense. I typically won't go less than 5 anymore. I carry a sidearm now. At that point in time, I've heard a lot of people were just like, dang, why didn't you have a pistol? I do now. But at the time, I was going with people. My initial plan was to go with people. And when you got like 3 dudes that all have rifles that are calibers big enough to put down hogs, why? You could bring a pistol, but why? You already have enough guns to deal with the situation that you're out there to deal with. And 3 dudes with hunting rifles could deal with a lot of other sketchier situations too.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people buy a gun and they think that they're like John Wick or something. They'll like go and buy a freaking Glock, and they got all these ideas about what they can do with the Glock and whatever, and no training either, like no training. And you figure out real quick when you're in like a live situation where it's just like, ah, shoot, like maybe I should have got the training. Maybe I should have learned something after buying this firearm, because the pigs don't shoot back. They'll come and they'll gore you and whatever. And I was mentally prepared for that, but I wasn't prepared for what I saw that night.
Yeah, it makes me feel a little bit better. Steve Ranella talks about like getting charged, I think, by a bear. And yeah, he said he possumed. I think he like passed out or something. He said
Ranella?
yeah, he like shut down. He
Oh,
said it was embarrassing, but I give him credit for admitting that. Right. Now, was there any other report of anything happening like that out there? Any missing people or anything that you could connect to that story?
I hunted that property. I hunted that property a couple times afterwards, and people have been asking me about why I'm a little cagey, um, about why I don't disclose the location of that property. I don't own it. I'm hunting on somebody else's property, and I don't want to sit here and tell stories about somebody's property, and then the internet's weird. The internet finds out
Yep.
all kinds of stuff
Hmm.
super quick. And I had hunted that property a couple times after that. I had to contact like Fish and Game after that.
Hmm.
And so that was viewed by the owners as me bringing undue attention. Like they want you to come, and I'm hunting the pigs as like a favor to them. Like I'm taking pigs off their property because they have other animals that could better you that graze in that area. The pigs dominate it. After that situation, I'd gotten the chance to hunt the property a couple times. Um, but I started asking questions, and like freaking asking them about it, and I didn't really get a lot of info. And I don't know if like you guys have ever like filed a police report with anything, but they don't care about getting back to you. They don't care about your curiosity. They don't care about, like if you ever get any closure with the situation. And so no, not really. Not really, but it wasn't maybe like 2 years after that. I moved a bunch since then. So no, not that I know of.
Hmm.
I just know that they like, they didn't like that I was bringing attention to the property at all.
Right. Makes sense. And do you have any like nightmares or any like I don't know any PTSD or anything like that, or was it not that extreme?
For a while afterwards, but like much closer to the event, yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
I'd wake up and get freaked out, and I'd I'd had like a reoccurring nightmare that I was running through that property unarmed at night, and I think my brain has trouble processing it because I never saw the dude with like my naked eye. Like all my memories of this guy are through a screen.
Hmm.
Um, and so it's weird. Like I never see anything scary in my dreams, but I hear it. The noise is scary. I would have whatever noise he was making as he was running away. I had nightmares about that.
Makes sense. Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about or share about that? Anything or did you get everything out you think?
Um, no, I think we're about good.
Okay.
Um,
Awesome.
I to anybody that's interested in the story, I know that it's gone from I want to say that it was r/creepy encounters. So many people had liked the story enough that it had encouraged me to start other writing projects. So I mean, be on the lookout for that. Keep watching Andrew's channel. Once I got something a little more concrete, I have a I have a title. I have a good amount of the project finished up,
Hmm.
but I don't have anything copywritten. So
Okay, and this will
I'm
be like fiction stuff.
yeah,
Okay.
based off of this situation,
Oh,
loosely
okay.
based off this situation.
Somewhat of a theme and anthology type stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great. Just out of curiosity, are you still doing a lot of deer hunting or boar hunting, and do you prefer one over the other?
Man, only because I'm more successful at boar hunting.
Yeah.
I'll go boar hunting. I bagged a bunch of pigs, but deer is skittish. I've been on several deer hunts, and it's funny because I've done a lot of moves. Like I was in Oregon for a little bit.
Hmm.
I obviously talked about Texas, but I'm in California now, and California's funny because in Texas I was like one of the least experienced hunters in my circle, but in California I'm like of my friend group, I'm like the most experienced hunter. So I've gone on a couple deer hunts, and it's just hiking with a rifle. I what the last deer hunt, I went with someone that was more experienced than me, and we took one shot. I did not take the shot, and we missed. So I actually haven't been on a successful deer hunt, to be honest. So I'd like to go deer hunting. I'm actually, you probably noticed on that one that that rifle, I had an LPVO on it, and I'm getting a better hunting scope mounted onto it. Um, for that reason, I've shifted gears a little bit. Since I live closer to an ocean now, I do a lot more fishing.
Hmm.
I've been fishing a lot more. Just the ocean is just super easy for me to get to, and the licensing and all that. So I've shifted gears because now that I have kids, it's harder to justify, like me being gone for a weekend.
Right.
It's much easier for me to be gone for like a morning.
I so appreciate your time. Thanks for coming to tell the story. That was quite the story, man. I hope for your sake it doesn't happen again, but I wouldn't mind hearing another incredible story like that. So selfishly, I wouldn't mind if something crazy happened to you again.
No, no. All the rest of my hunting stories from then on out are pretty boring. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, yeah. Likewise. Thanks a lot, man.